is our real belief. And I really want this series to be the most productive that we've ever had. And by that I mean, I want everyone present to really have a goal, a noble goal, and realize it. Realize it before we close in May. May I tell you, you can realize it? I mean that seriously. So what do I mean by our real beliefs? Our real beliefs are what we live by. Real belief and knowing are one. When a man really believes, it's just as though he knows it. It's tantamount to knowing. So when I tell you belief, I call it faith, I call it belief, it is not complete till it becomes experience. One must experience it, and then they know it. Now you will hear the same thing tonight. Everyone present will hear exactly the same thing. But no two will hear it in the same depth. Some will hear it on the surface, others will hear it below the surface, and others will hear it down in the very depths of their being. It's where you hear it. As we are told, the word came to them as it did to us, but it did not profit them, because it was not mixed with faith in those who heard it. They heard it and rejected it, but they heard it. It came in and went out. It did not receive acceptance by those who heard it, and so they instantly rejected it. Tonight, I hope you will not reject what I'm here to tell you. But that's your choice. You're free. You could accept it or reject it. But I tell you, if I get through tonight and you apply it, because you are the operant power, I can tell you that it doesn't operate itself. If this very moment I asked you to think of a friend, just think of a friend, and now hear him tell you something lovely about himself, about a mutual friend, or about you. Just hear it. Do you believe that that actually took place? You may say, well, I imagined it, but it didn't really take place. I will tell you the day will come, and I hope now, that when you imagine a state, before you have external confirmation of that state, to you it is as though you heard it externally. You know it. That this internal act is equal to the external confirmation of that act. You get to that point because the difference between God and man is measured only in terms of this imaginative power. If I would now speak of the power that is God, as we are told in Scripture, is revealed constantly as power, sheer power. 3rd chapter, 4th, 5th, and 6th verses of the book of Exodus. Sheer power. Moses stands in the presence of power, but it's creative power. And the distance between God and man is measured by simply power. On this level, if I'm on the surface of my being, only this is real, and what my senses allow. But as I go deeper into my own being, moving ever towards the core of my being, who is God, then my imaginative act becomes externalized, quickly externalized as I go deeper and deeper. On the surface, it seems to take an interval of time, if I believe. If I don't believe, it never comes into some external form at all, never. Yet I'm living in a world, not understanding it, not knowing what it's all about. So really the story that I want to tell you is trying to ask you and plead with you to buy your religion wholesale. Go to the maker. Go to the source. Don't buy it retail with some man in between. No one in between you and the source. You go right into the depth and buy your religion wholesale by going to the source, which is your own wonderful human imagination, your own I amness. That's God. The story we told you last Tuesday of one whose name was Eddie. Eddie had the identical experience of the one recorded in the book of Exodus. When he heard, "Do not come up here," read the words. The words are, "Do not come here." Read it in the book of Exodus. 4th, 5th, and 6th verses of the 3rd chapter of Exodus. And the Lord said unto Moses, "Do not come here." And then Moses hid his face, not in shame, but in fear. He was afraid to look at God. So Eddie saw the symbol of God, and he ran. He was scared too. The identical story. And what did he hear? The revelation of God's name, I am. He first heard it, I am. No one in sight. Then it repeated itself so loudly he thought it came from above. He looked up thinking of some machine, maybe some helicopter with a PA system is broadcasting the name I am. There was not a thing in sight. And then the third, "Don't come up here." Being curious, he did go up there to the hill to confront a rattlesnake. Fortunately, it was not coiled to spring. It was simply a 4-foot long snake all stretched out, the symbol of the creative power of God. But it scared him. It scares man. When man actually sees what really is in himself, that he's solely responsible for everything that is taking place in his world. Solely responsible. It scares him. It's too much, until he goes deeper and deeper and hears the same word of truth, but hears it in depth, and then he assumes full responsibility for all that is taking place within him. So tonight, let me share with you a few stories. 7 years ago, a lady, she's not here tonight, she's now on a new job and is taken away for a while. But when she heard it, that imagining creates reality, she said to herself, well, if that is so, I would like to go to Egypt. She had no money. She's never been a lady of means, always working, small sums of money, could never accumulate what it would take to make the trip. And so, the usual story, she told her dream. She didn't keep it to herself, she told it. Nothing wrong in it. If you really believe it, you can tell it. As you're told in the scripture, go, tell no man, but show John, show the world. But that's, if you don't tell man before, will man believe you after the event? He may question your honesty. But if you tell him before the event, then he is assured, because actually you have a witness to the fact you did tell him before the event. So that is also in Scripture. And now I will tell you before it takes place, that when it does take place, you may believe. For that is courage in the depth of the soul, where one knows the imaginal act is a fact at the very moment of the act, though not yet seen by the outer man. But not everyone has that courage and that faith in the imaginal act. So she told it. And naturally her friends criticized her. It is stupid to go to that man, you waste your money. It's not religion. What is it? He is telling you that an assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. But that's stupid. It doesn't make sense. To them, a true judgment must conform to the external fact to which it relates. So if I say, well, isn't a lovely dog? And there is no dog to bear witness to my judgment is false. So that's what they gathered from what she told them that I am teaching. And so the whole thing is insane, it's stupid. Well, the years went on. It's been 7 years now. And this is what happened this past week. She got a job. She's a nurse, and so the job moves around. She goes from home to home where the need is there. And so she found herself in the environment or the neighborhood of a friend she had not seen or contacted in a year. She had exchanged a birthday card and a Christmas greeting with a little note on the card, but no telephone call and no other contact. Finding herself in the neighborhood, she calls her. When this friend heard her voice on the wire, she said, "Oh, Jan, you can have it, you can have it." She said, all right, I'll take it. What is it?" And then this is the story. There was a party, a pre-Lenten party at the Hotel Hilton, some Mardi Gras by a Catholic society, the Joseph and Mary Society. There were door prizes. The major prize was a 30-day trip, first class, all expenses paid, stopping along the way at the Hilton hotels in the Near East. And Egypt is part of the setup. The lady and her family had spent several months last year abroad and had no desire this year to go abroad again. In fact, they've already arranged to go to New York City for the World's Fair, which opens in April. So a trip abroad is out. Furthermore, this ticket, this door ticket, only accepts one person, not a group, not a family. So that was what her friend said to her she would give her. Jan said, all right, I'll take it. And then called me up to tell me the story. Delayed, seemingly, 7 years. She still now has her ticket, if she wants it, to the Near East, where Egypt is included, and she goes first class, all expenses paid, but everything paid. Because she believed. Maybe in the interval her faith wavered. Maybe she justified it by saying, maybe I don't want it, or in some strange way tried to explain it away. But it still, in its own good time, came to the surface. I ask you not to throw your dreams away and feel that they are impossible of realization in this strange, drab world of external facts. Every dream can come true if I can get through to you that your imagination is God, and that your imaginal act when you think of a friend carrying on the conversation, that is Jesus Christ in action.
Hello everybody. So that was first let me give a shout out to Complicated, who does the music for this channel, and they are live every Saturday playing as a trio at 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and then throughout the week they play video games. So go ahead and check them out. Listen to their most recent set while you listen to this, because I don't play any music, so it'd be good little background music for you. Okay, so that lecture is called Our Real Belief, and if you're watching this on YouTube and skipping through to where I start, go back and listen to it. I realize it's 12 minutes, but you know what? You should be listening to the whole lecture anyway. But listen at least to that bit, because contained in there is a lot of Neville's answer about the sort of topic I want to start out talking about today, and really talk about the whole day, which is faith. And I love that lecture because it has the example of someone who didn't receive their manifestation for 7 years. And as Neville just said, well, maybe there was some wavering in faith, but ultimately it has to express, it has to come out. So don't ever abandon these dreams. And he also talked about the importance of belief, that this conviction, that truly believing in these realities is what wills them into expression. Now I know it's discouraging for some people, but don't let it be discouraging for you, to hear that it took this person 7 years. Let it be encouraging, especially if you've been waiting a while for something, if you maybe feel you've waited too long. And by the way, this kind of little intro rant is mostly me talking to me, because there are some things I feel I've waited too long for, and just in general that I've waited too long in my life for it to be at a moment where I'm actually totally content and feel fulfilled, or at least mostly fulfilled. Here's the thing. So I'm very familiar with catching the fish, filleting it, eating it, or at least catching it. If we want to go with the metaphor of like eating it would be the manifestation itself, then I've caught the fish and filleted it many times and prepared it and buttered it and oiled it, and yet never had the meal as of yet. And so you can catch that, live in that, and feel really good about that for a couple days. This has been my experience. And then some old man thought will come back and will drag you back as if you never went fishing in the first place. And I don't know if it's in one of the books or in one of the lectures, but I even put a quote on one of my computer screens: never accept the suggestion of lack. And sometimes what happens is you give too much attention and mental precedence to this lack of evidence. But it's just a wavering in faith. It's just a little temporary lapse in faith. It's an old man. It's altogether an old man way of thinking, to prioritize what you see over what you saw. What you see externally over what you see within. And this can be especially difficult if I experienced this a lot in the beginning, but less now. If your mind keeps flipping back and forth, so it's like, if your mind is imagining a bunch of different scenarios and you don't have focus on your one preferred reality, it can cause quite a bit of distress. But the thing is, it is okay to have that disappointment. This is really something I wish someone had told me at the beginning, and maybe they did, but I wasn't open to hear it at the time. It's okay to want and to expect results. I think in the community it gets a little bit confusing because people will talk about evidence. Well, it's not about evidence, it's about results, right? And here's the thing: if you weren't interested in results, you'd be into like Zen Buddhism or some other form of non-duality, where you basically, achieve your sense of peace while the world around you falls apart, and you don't really care about that because you're unattached from it, and you're content with or not content, but content with being not content, with knowing that this moment is all there is, and that it's actually perfect and whole, and that your perception of it not being whole is only a misperception. If that's the path you want to go, you wouldn't be interested in Neville. You probably wouldn't be listening to this lecture unless you're another non-dualist who's going to talk to me in the future, and so you want to check out what I have to talk about. But for the most part, you're here because you want results, because you want to experience certain things in your life that at this moment you can only experience in your imagination, and you have yet to experience them in the exterior world. It's fine to want those results. It's perfectly natural, normal, and healthy to want those results. And it's also fine to be disappointed if you feel you've waited too long and not had the result you want. Now, don't dwell in that disappointment forever. Don't stay stuck in that state of disappointment, in that mindset of giving way too much priority to what you see going on right now. There are numerous people, so you can read their biographies if you like, who are today extremely successful in their fields. If we want to make it about money, billionaires. If we want to make it about relationships, have been married for their whole life, or always felt successful in their love relationships and friendships and other forms of relationships. There are people in their 80s who still have excellent health and, the bodies they want to have, despite our beliefs about age. And these people didn't start out as that. Very few people start out as a billionaire. Yes, there obviously are people who inherited large amounts of wealth, and there are people who do seem to be born with innate talents and have talents more capable than their peers. However, nobody is a multiple decade accomplished master in their field when they're 13, 14, 15, 16, or even in their 20s and 30s. That's something that one moves into. That's a state you move into. That's something you become. And yet, if you ask them when they were that younger person, the image they had of themselves, it would most certainly be one of success. It would be one of, I know this will happen to me, or I see this happening to me. Pick someone that you personally like, that is a public figure, and if they've written a biography or if they've done interviews, go read them. You will find this. It's pretty universal. I like to listen to interviews, not read biographies so much, but I really like to read interviews and listen to them, watch them, and I've found this to be universal, that no matter the person's current age, if they're successful enough that someone wants to interview them, they knew from a very young age, they claimed that. They saw that for themselves and moved into it. So you should have that same faith and conviction in who you are and what you will experience to carry you through. And in the meantime, do as Neville said, where the intensity of the imaginal act, like if you feel like, okay, I've done everything, and you're kind of struggling to, this is kind of what I'm going through, where it's like, for certain things I've done everything, I've done every technique, and I have captured that living in the end state multiple times on some of these things, but I still, because it's not externalized yet, that focus on it not being here is still there. The thing that overcomes that, that I've had success with in the past, that I really need to do in these things I want now, is to imagine so intensely in that moment that it is like it's real. And preferably to fall asleep in it, or at least kind of doze off in it, where it's like you tune into that reality totally. That's what Neville suggested at the top of this lecture, and that is what I would suggest for anyone listening now who has this same issue. So I think overall it is about faith. Faith is really the foundation of any of these things. And if you can't believe in yourself, I don't know, I think a lot of your manifestations are going to be off in ways that displease you. Also, take some encouragement in knowing that, okay, because you have infinity within you and infinity available to you, you kind of want to be precise on what you want. If you're, especially like me, someone who's very picky in particular, you don't want to get something that doesn't quite scratch that itch, or something that is still a little bit off, that you have to manifest changes about it, or you have to pretend you're content with it when you're really not. So take advantage of this time prior to manifestation to really hone in on the details of what you'd like. It's not going to injure it. It's not going to make it take longer or anything like that. It's already done, but it's going to give you a manifestation that pleases you more deeply. I actually wish I had done that to a degree on my guitar that I've been doing little projects on for a long time, where my vision, my actual mental picture of what I wanted from that guitar was hazy, and it kept flopping back and forth, and what I have as a result right now reflects that. Just parts of it are literally less clear than they should be. So take advantage of this time to really hone your vision on what exactly and specifically you want to experience. And sort of to move on from this topic, but it's still related. So I was thinking a little bit about, and it's the reason why only a few months after finding Neville, I registered the domain masterofimagination.com, which is where I have some blogs up right now. I wonder why Neville didn't talk so much about, other than in the mental diet lectures, about using the law of assumption towards your sense of imaginal mastery, your imaginal technique, whatever, your mental diet throughout the day. And he discussed it in a lecture that was just playing, and discusses in a lecture I'm about to read right now, which is, well, Neville told you you're God the Father who created everything. So if there isn't anything else, which there's nothing which more heavily implies that you're already a master, okay? That's the master of masters. You just don't remember that on this level, and you're designed not to. However, you have within you at all times, you already have access to, and are already actively expressing the power that creates worlds. It's just your human identity, your I am being limited to this frame of I am this name, I am this life history, I am this age type of deal that makes you think that there's something yet to be or become when it comes to your precision at manifesting and imagining. But that's not so. That's just not so. I mean, yeah, you're depending on where you're at in life, you may feel like your brain is uncontrolled in a wild animal, and you might want to step into a state where things are generally more calm, and you have better focus, and better ideas come to you, and better thoughts come to you. But that's all already instantly available to you. This idea of becoming is an illusion. This is all about remembering, and this is not something that totally clicked with me. It's one of these things where it clicks and then it goes away, clicks and then goes away, because I keep falling back into just a state of thinking of me as me, like thinking of me as, my limited, constrained, mortal man identity, and not thinking of myself as who I really am. Like it's just the memory fails you, and then you go back to being this constrained being who thinks they need to manifest some sort of improvement. But the title of the lecture, Changing the Feeling of I, is not changing the expression of I, or changing the being of I, or changing who I am and how I act. It's changing the feeling of I. So it's changing the convictions and the beliefs about yourself. It's changing how you think about yourself, not how you actually, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not like you are actively doing self-improvement classes. You're just changing your thoughts about you. So yeah, I hope that is helpful. And related to that, that kind of changes the arc of kind of what I want to do with that site. But it's a change that I think will at least be beneficial to other people. Because look, in the meantime, it's definitely going to be beneficial to you. Though keep in mind, you're never improving, you're just remembering the improvement that's already there. But for lack of a better word, to keep improving your vividness and visualization, your clarity of hearing when it comes to hearing other people talking, like overall enhancing your imaginal prowess, your access to imaginal sensation is certainly something that is worthy beyond anything else of you focusing on and thinking of as improving a skill. If you're going to think about it that way and approach it that way, that's certainly worthy. But there is already a version of you, because that's who you really are, that's easy for, and that's immediate and automatic for. And you can just kind of step into that picture of you at any point in time, and that applies to any state. All right, so today, this lecture, I wanted to do because of this issue, because I wanted to talk to myself about this, about the most foundational issue, which is faith. And I have a little rant before. Today I'm feeling less bombastic about what's the problem with belief. Really, what is the problem with belief? What's the problem with faith? Why can't you? What is so hard about believing in a version of you that has what they want, that isn't suffering whatever displeasure or pain or injustice or whatever that you feel that you're expressing right now? What is so difficult about believing in this better version of you and your life and the lives of those around you? Why is that so tough? That limit is self-imposed, and you can let go of it at any time. I know sometimes by force of habit, we condition ourselves to just kind of keep re-traumatizing ourselves. But the less you pay attention to that, the less you feed that life through your thoughts, the more that will fade and die out. And the easier it will be to see, no, it's okay. Everything's going to be okay. And better than that, it's going to be even more imaginable, like unbelievably better than I had ever prior imagined. Like, I'm just going to keep moving into better and better states, having more wonderful and more joyous experiences. I'm just going to manifest bigger and bigger things in every aspect of my life and the lives of those around me and the world at large. Like, it's just going to get better. It's so easy to start moving into that. And you know, if you're new to manifesting, go back and read Changing the Feeling of I, or if I have it posted on YouTube or you find it somewhere else, whatever, however you want to experience it, go ahead and have some experience of that lecture, because you're going to connect with what Neville's talking about there in a way that's very important to you right now. And you'll see it differently in a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. I guarantee it. Okay, I guarantee it. But in that lecture, Neville talks primarily about a man who, for him, it took, as far as Neville knew, 3 years, maybe a little bit less, because he'd already manifested a business by the time he met with Neville again. But to Neville's perspective of how he experienced him, it took this man 3 years to change who he thought he was and experience an outpicturing of this changed self. So if you feel like things aren't happening fast enough, they're happening fine. It's fine. It really is fine. It really is going to be okay. It really is going to work out. If you feel like it's not right now, you're just in a state. We're all just in a state, and you may be in a state that says it's not going to be fine, but that's just a state. I guarantee it will pass, and I guarantee you will move into a better state more quickly than you ever imagined you could. All right, so let's scoot into the lecture. And I may need to take a little break to